Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Timothy Adon. Welcome to another episode of Integrating Wwise into Unreal. Today, we will be talking about how to implement an audience in, say, an arena, a sports game, or in this case, if you remember from my previous videos, this is a arena combat game, where at some point I will have an audience around this combat stage. So the audience isn't actually that difficult to implement. It has a lot of moving parts, but each part is actually quite simple. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is audience excitement, or rather like the audience at large. So normally when you have an audience, you have a kind of a neutral tone that will then build up in excitement as exciting things start happening in the game. Or potentially have excitement go down and they start booing you or something like that. So how I have that represented is first we'll go to Wwise. Actually, first let me just show you how it works in game right now. So when you start, the audience starts off at a neutral tone. You can kind of just barely hear it right now. And then the excitement will go up as you get kills, as the score gets increased. And then it will reset to a medium. The amount of excitement that goes up is generally based off of the point value of the robot, or of the enemies, which right now is just robots. But I have it increased a lot so that we can actually hear what's going on when I eliminate things. So I don't have to kill too many things to make it work. So pick up the base gun. You can hear audience shots in the background, and we'll talk about that in a second. And see, you can hear, now that I've killed things, the excitement has gone up. And now you can hear the cheering, like the actual cheering. And the chanting. And you can see in the upper left, in the blue numbers, the excitement going down by 1 every second. It will eventually reset down to a medium of 50. But all the while, it'll loop whatever audio that it is playing. So how do I get that to work? Well, in Wwise, we have game syncs, and I have excitement level as one of the game parameters. It goes from 0 to 100, and it's a default set to 50. And I'm using that as a real-time parameter control. Where is it? There we go. To affect my various audience blender objects. So right now I have the excitement blender. So as the excitement level goes up, you'll get happier cheering noises, and then it'll eventually gradually reset back down to 50. And then in the case of you doing anything negative, it'll go down to unhappy sounds and eventually booing. And that is relatively easy to set up. So let's go over here. So at the moment, at the robot, when it's dead, it is going to increase the score. So it'll increase the score ticker, which I showed you in a previous video. I'm fairly certain. I might not have. And then it will also increase the kill streak counter, which I will show off in a little bit. And then in a object that I called audience, which is just kind of placed randomly in the level here. I think I set it up right in the middle of the map where it would be easy enough to find if I needed it. I have, as soon as play begins, the audience starts looping at a default value of That's interesting. It has a begin at a value of 0, and yet it still seems to start at 50. Interesting. And then in addition, I've also got attenuation for the elevator, since, you're not going to hear all of the audience while you're in the middle of the elevator there. I don't think that's working right now, and I'll have to double check because it doesn't seem like it is. So once the score gets increased, it sets the excitement level, which is it takes the excitement level and it adds an amount equal to the point value of the enemy that is killed. And then it sets the RTPC value with that amount. And then every second, so every tick, it checks to see if the game is over, first off. And then as long as the game is not over, every second, it will either, if excitement is greater than 50, it will take excitement, subtract 1, and then set the RTPC value. If excitement is lower than 50, right here, if the excitement is lower than 50, it'll take excitement, it'll add 1, and then it'll set the RTPC value. And then it prints a string. That way, if your excitement gets high enough, you can control the speed at which the audience resets itself back to a normal value. And depending on what your maximum and your minimum values are, your audience will maintain their level of excitement for essentially however long you want them to, using the blend track. And that's really all there is to excitement. For the actual blender itself, I have it currently set up as a 2D sound, since I envision the audience being all around the arena. I don't really see a need to have it be a 3D sound in this case. When it comes to approval and eventually reaction, I definitely have approval as a 3D sound. Reaction, I'm still kind of fuzzy on at the moment. But that is really all there is to it when it comes to setting up the standard audience background noise, along with a excitement level that increases, decreases, and resets itself back to a medium. And yes, my bird is extremely excited that I'm talking. Now, approval. Before I talk about approval, I'm going to talk about the kill streak that I set up. You already saw on the robot that after it gets destroyed, it increases score, and then it increases the kill streak. Kill streak is, not in this folder, is another object that I created, its own object blueprint, that I set up in the world somewhere, probably sitting next to the audience object somewhere. And it's just there to keep track of math. That's all it does. So what happens is, once a robot is killed, it increases kill streak. When the kill streak is increased, it sets a timer for 3 seconds, streak timer. And then it increases the kill streak counter by 1, and then it prints string. And then every event tick, or every second, it will check if the streak timer is higher than or equal to 1. It'll take the kill streak timer and subtract 1. And then if the kill streak timer equals 0, then it resets the kill streak to 0. And then if the kill streak counter is greater than 4, it'll increase approval. Essentially meaning that every second that your kill streak is higher than 4, your approval increases. And then I have somewhere player damage. If the player takes damage, then the kill streak ends. And essentially what that means is that it'll call this event, it'll set the streak timer to 0, and it'll set the kill streak counter to 0, and it'll also print that the streak ended. Essentially giving you a 3-second window. Every single time you get a kill, it resets the timer to 3, increases the kill count by 1, which is incredibly cool. Approval is a function within Killstreak That is, every single time increase approval is called, which happens when the kill streak counter is at least 4, or no, greater than 4, remember. And what happens is, if the kill streak counter is greater than 8, then approval gets increased by 2, which is another RTPC that I have set up in Wwise. If the kill streak counter is not greater than 8, but still greater than 4, remember, then the RTPC value gets increased by 1. This one does not get reset. This one is permanent. And my intent is that between levels, approval will stay persistent between levels. But I don't have that set up yet. I've only got the one level. And at the moment, I don't have anything that decreases approval either. And so what I have here is, again, in GameSyncs, I have approval rating, which defaults set to 25 and then can go down to 0 with a max of 100. With the idea being that you probably heard in the background of my game me calling out for the player to die, or something like that, get off the stage, my own personal placeholder audio. And essentially what's happening, that is another object called audience shots, which I have the original version of increasing the RTPC value here, which I'm not using anymore. I'll get to that in a second. So I have the RTPC value for approval rating. And what that does is when somebody's car is going off. When the approval gets called, it is going to play either encouragement. Keep going. Go, go, go. I don't know if you can hear this. It's pretty quiet. Get off the stage, traitor. Yeah. Boo. So essentially what happens is that if the approval rating is below 50, the audience hates you. If the approval rating is above 50, they love you. At some point, I'll figure out something in the middle, but right now, I'm just going to keep it very binary. And how that works is that every 5 seconds, we get all actors of class audience shots. Audience shots, I actually have a few of these. This is where it's supposed to be 3D. I don't actually know if it works at the moment. But I have, it's actually easier to see from the top. I have, out on the edges, there we go. You can just barely see them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 8 audience shots objects scattered around the stage. And so essentially, it's going to get all audience shots, take the array, and then pick one, which is a function that I have in here. It's going to take the audience, it's going to do a random integer, it's going to pull that one and pick one of those 8. And then it's going to play the audience approval event, which is this blender, which will then play audio based on where the approval rating is. So if your approval is too low, the audience is going to hate you and they're just going to hope that you die throughout the arena, throughout the fight. If your approval is high enough, then they'll encourage you to go on and win. Also, a very easy system to set up. Well, the system itself is easy to set up. Getting it together and getting the actual location-based stuff to work is a little bit harder. And I still haven't actually figured out if the location-based portion is working yet. And so it is set up so that when your kill streak is high enough, your approval will start going up because you're being exciting enough and you're fighting hard enough that the audience actually starts to like you. May or may not make sense, but at the moment, that's how I have it set up. There will eventually be some other things, actions that the player can take that will make it so that the approval goes up. The idea that I have is I have healing boxes occasionally scattered throughout the levels, where what I want to have happen is that if you use one of the healing boxes, your approval goes down because you're being lame. But if you pick up the healing boxes and put down your gun, and then throw the healing boxes into the audience, then you can increase your approval because you're giving them really good medicine or something like that. That's kind of the idea that I have right now. And then eventually the approval will be important for the end of the game, where it will pick an ending based on where your approval is. And then the last thing that I don't quite have set up yet, but I have some bits in there, is audience reaction, which I don't have reaction set up yet. I have audio for it, where it's just short clips of audience going, "Whoa!" Yeah, things like that. And my idea for that is essentially like every time you fight one of the mini bosses and eliminate them, or every time you get hit, then a reaction will be played based on where your approval is. But I don't quite have that set up yet because I don't know if I'm actually going to include that in the final game or not. It's just kind of speculative right now. But I have a lot of other possibilities here. So given that I've got, that I have excitement all set up, I have the excitement RTPC that I can play with as I see fit, and it's already set to go if I need it. And in addition, I've also got the Killstreak, which I could also use to fiddle with audience behavior if I feel like it. Actually, having the Killstreak as a RTPC is not a bad idea. One thing that I have not been working on yet, game sync. One thing that I have not been working on yet is music. And thinking about it, having the Killstreak 0 to 100 is super duper not doable. 0 to 50, I think, is okay. Defaulting to 0. I haven't done anything with music yet, and I do kind of need an idea for another video at some point. So I think Killstreak is going to be a pretty good way to play with interactive music with a value equal to Killstreak counter. Yeah, and that'll just automatically set that up for me. Thank you. And set Killstreak. And then over here, that's already set up. And then ooh, I have something broken in here too. Event tick 1 second if Killstreak timer is greater than or equal to 1. Take the Killstreak timer and subtract 1. If it's equal to 0, set the Killstreak counter to 0. Ooh, I totally broke this. I'm glad I caught it. On video, no less. And then if it's not equal to 0, do this. Aha! See, real-time editing. And then set RTPC value to 0. Actually, even better. There. Now we can have that set up. So now, when the Killstreak ends, it'll set that to 0. But in addition, I also need to do that over here. Set RTPC, typing. Set RTPC value to that. This is going to be Killstreak, assuming I spelled it right. And Killstreak. Killstreak? Killstreak. 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 There we go. And so now I have that set up for music stuff, which I will probably do for the next video, which probably means the next video is going to take a very long time because I have no music set up for this yet. Yeah. So, quick review, since this is not going to be a very long video. Audience object. Set up just in the world somewhere. Starts playing as soon as the game starts, regardless of whether you've hit start in the menu. And then increases as the robots get killed through a killstreak interface. Or, sorry, the increase score interface, which is on the score ticker interface, the increase score function. When that gets called, excitement goes up based on the point value of the enemy that died. Right now, they're only worth 1 point, so it doesn't go up very high. And then that sets the excitement level in Wwise, which then plays or changes the level of the blend track, which changes which audio gets played based on how high the excitement level is. And then every second, the excitement level deteriorates back down 1 towards neutral, which is 50 in this case. Similarly, every time a robot gets killed, it triggers the killstreak interface event, which then sets a killstreak timer, which then increases your killstreak counter, which will now set my brand new killstreak RTPC. And then every second, it'll decrease your timer by 1. If it hits 0, it'll reset the killstreak counter to 0 and set the RTPC. Otherwise, it'll start checking for increased approval. And then if you take damage, then the timer and the killstreak counter get set to 0 along with the new RTPC. And that is what I have for today. Yeah, so for my next video, now that I've kind of figured that out in the middle of this one, I will probably talk about interactive music systems, which will be very cool because I have not actually touched that at all for this game. I wrote a tiny bit of music that I thought would be very cool, but I haven't actually touched it since I started doing these videos. So music will definitely be the next thing, and that means that I need to get cracking on some good American Gladiator style music, or some good John Cena music, or something similar to that. Yeah, so I hope that this video was helpful. If you have any questions or concerns or comments or anything that I might be able to do a video for, anything that you need to correct, or if you have any suggestions for how to make something a little bit more efficient, feel free to comment on this video down below. Hit the like button. That may or may not be helpful to me. And if you want, you can always buy me a coffee. I kind of survive off that stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye!